The information provided here is for general informational purposes only and should not be considered an individualized recommendation or personalized investment advice. The investment strategies mentioned here may not be suitable for everyone. Each investor needs to review an investment strategy for his or her own particular situation before making any investment decisions. Investment advisory represented above and investment advisory services through Portside Wealth Group LLC and SEC-registered investment advisor. Portside Wealth Group LLC and their representatives do not provide tax or legal advice. Each firm only transacts business in states where it is properly registered or excluded or exempted from registration requirements. SEC registration does not constitute an endorsement of the firm by the Commission, nor does it indicate that the advisor referenced in this disclosure has obtained a particular level of skill or ability.
Roofers, listen up. Contracts, cash flow, chaos, and control. This is the Roofers Growth and Wealth Show. Real talk, real numbers, real roofers getting rich. You're on the Roofers Growth and Wealth Show. Stacking skills, stacking deals, stacking dough. From shingles to scale, watch your empire grow. Welcome to the Roofers Growth and Wealth Show. Let's go.
Today we're going to be talking about El Niño, really. And I feel like one of us has to stand up and do the Chris Farley impression of El Niño. Randy, you got
For those of you who don't speak Spanish, El Niño means the Niño.
Spanish for the Niño. All right, so
Niño.
looking up, we've been hearing about El Niño for a while now, and AccuWeather actually says summer 2026 is expected to bring a volatile mix of heat, severe thunderstorms, and flooding to the United States, with El Niño developing and flexing its influence on the weather pattern. So a lot of roofers right now are gearing up for this. Some have had quite a bit of weather already this year and expecting a lot more this summer. So today we're talking about that, what we can do to prepare for that, what we've seen in the past, and the right ways to prepare for a potentially large influx of cash. So Randy, being our resident roofer here, let's go ahead and start this off right off the bat with talking about these major storms. So what happens to your business, Randy, being a roofer, when a big storm hits?
Right off the bat, things get stressful. But the nice thing is it also gets exciting. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of optimism and a lot of salesmen. My business specifically, phone starts ringing a lot more. I get a lot of texts from past clients wanting an inspection. I think right off the bat, a lot of your systems get tested. You find out, okay, so it's been solid year and a half since we've had a new significant storm. When I get into a lot of the apps that I'm going to need, probably all going to have to be re-downloaded and updated, and I'm going to have to go through and learn, because there's probably been 3 or 4 updates along the way where they change things and they move things. So I'd say for the first week, I'm doing a lot of stuff on paper and then trying to move it into my systems to start tracking it, because it's just inevitable. My wife sent me a snippet on social media the other day. A guy's talking about millennials and how unique our generation is because of how fast things have changed in our adult lives. We went from pagers when we were teenagers to, the Nokia phone that had the first game of Worm. Anyway, with how fast things ramped up to now, we have basically what used to be a supercomputer as a phone. The technology moves so fast, by the time you figured it out, you're already behind.
Yeah. So are you saying that you have apps and these technologies that you've downloaded before?
Oh yeah.
And you don't use them, and you actually erase them, and then you re-download them for a heavy season?
No, I don't erase them. I have a file on my phone that has my roofing apps in it.
Yeah.
But a lot of them you only use at the very beginning of the process for picture taking, for documenting stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
So in the first 3 weeks of the storm, you're going to be uploading a whole bunch of new stuff.
Right.
And then you stop using that one because you've submitted everything to supplementing and you're onto the other app.
Mhm.
So for 3 weeks at the beginning of a storm, an app gets used heavily. You don't go back to it until you maybe get an influx of customers again. Now, that's for a small roofing company. I don't have salesmen out selling every day where there's new stuff coming in all the time.
Yeah.
So by the time I circle back to it because of another storm, I'm having to play catch up. That's one of the big opportunities / bottlenecks right now
Mhm.
is there's probably a new CRM that comes out every month that's
Yeah.
trying to compete and beat the other ones. And it can do things differently because the biggest problem is you got to jump around from 3 to 5 different apps, which, okay, include email and other things, which isn't technically an app, but you're in a lot of different systems just to track one job.
Well,
Trying
yeah,
to
I
find
mean,
one CRM that can put it all into one place has been the biggest hurdle in all of roofing.
well, and you have what what we might call in the business industry your tech stack, right? It's all of your technology that you use over the course of your business processes, and that can be a lot of different places. This is something that all business owners deal with, but the CRM piece, we've changed our CRM a few times over the course of our business life, and it's just a disaster. It's a monster every single time because you've got to learn. Not only are you moving all your data over to a new CRM, but you're also learning all of its nuances and processes and stuff like that. That's and especially when you haven't, when we've been dry, we haven't had good storms, through most of the country, like you said, for like a year and a half. And so all of a sudden you're trying to get back into, your technology and trying to work it with a CRM that's going to work for you. And maybe you know, anyway, if you've taken the time to switch CRMs during the slow times, that can be helpful because you can spend some time actually learning those processes, in order
However,
to get yourself ready for the storm. But go ahead.
well, I would say, I bet you all CRMs that are out there right now work just fine when you're not busy.
Sure. Yeah.
Then you
That's
get busy and you don't know what's not working until you have a giant headache that you have to fix. Now you're fixing a headache while you're crazy busy trying to get new jobs and push people through the process.
Right.
So
that
it's,
is the cost, and that's the unicorn too. The unicorn is a one system that can do all the things.
Yeah.
Right? We're always trying to search for that, and I don't know if it really exists out there.
it doesn't.
I don't know if it'll ever exist. But
Yeah, we'll have to do. We probably ought to do a whole separate podcast on the
on CRMs.
CRMs out there, and what's working for roofers and what is not, and try to pinpoint some positives and negatives. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation that we'll have.
On the financial side of that too, one of the things that's been something I've been trying to maximize is minimize is my overhead by maximizing technology.
Right.
However, the really good CRMs can end up costing just as much as having someone in-house doing all of that stuff for you. And it's almost, capitalism. They started out with a cheap CRM, but then they realized, well, if they're willing to pay a human $60,000 a year to do this, why don't we charge $60,000 a year instead of $5 a month per user or something? Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Now,
No CRM costs $60,000 a year. That's
they don't, but the costs still add up because now they charge per user and your overhead costs just keep creeping right back up. One thing that's free, essentially, training your guys to keep track of their own stuff, to manage their own jobs, to limit that. Talk about a unicorn, though.
Mhm.
The world we live in, everyone is looking for that technology that is going to replace them, but allow them to make just as much money, if not more, as before.
Right.
And it is not going to work. You
No,
can't replace equity,
yeah.
Yeah.
not dollar equity, but an equitable human. It's hard to replace that. So
I'm going to transition us back a little bit. We're kind of going down the road of CRMs, and we should definitely talk about that. You mentioned that, Scott, in the future.
Yeah.
But for right now, let's get back to the storm season a little bit. Scott, tell us about the biggest storm season you ever had. What was that like?
You mean Randy?
Sorry, Randy. Yes.
I was going to say, this will be interesting. Go, Scott.
Well, I remember my car got
rained really
destroyed
hard
one time.
Okay.
So Randy, tell us about that.
A little backstory to prep that. I was a general contractor for a long time. And then in 2019, I was sitting in my office and I just had a premonition that I need to get back into roofing because we hadn't had storms. We had like a 5-year dry spell. So I knew storms were coming. I was hesitant because of something we'll talk about later. I was hesitant to get back into the industry because it's littered with bad players. But I thought, there's no reason I can't do it right and do it better than everybody else. So why not? 2019, I start my company, start doing more, or it was a second company, start doing more real estate transactions for roofs, getting systems figured out, how I wanted to do supplementing and whatnot. And then 2023 was the first real, we had a tornado in Highlands Ranch. And that storm, I mean, I remember I could see it. My son had a tournament in Breckenridge. We're getting ready to get on the road. And I live out east. We're headed west. And over the mountains was this teal green cloud that was just doing this. I mean, green, like glass, because it had so much hail in it. That's why it turns green, right? The way the light hits it and whatever.
Right.
As far as I know, I'm not a scientist, but that's what my brain tells me. I decided, well, we're going to wait because I'm not driving through that. Go back to my house. My mom sends a text to the family saying, there's air raid sirens. We're getting in the basement. And everyone's worried. And then my brother's sending me videos of his house getting smashed with 1.5 inch hail. And then within 20 minutes, I look outside and it's just eerily quiet. And here it comes. We went and put the horses inside and just got absolutely smashed. So from pretty much Parker to the foothills, it was just annihilated. So my brother calls me and what's that?
I remember that storm. I had clients their, trampolines got tossed into the neighbor's yard, and
Totally. I mean, it blew people's decks off their house.
Right.
Crazy. And my brother sends me a message. He's all, dude, my neighborhood just got destroyed. And I was like, okay, I'm bringing signs over. Just go knock on doors, tell them that you're going to handle the entire claim, and then I'll walk you through the rest of the process.
Did you have signs already at this point, or were you?
Yeah, I had signs made for me, and I didn't have enough.
Yeah.
So my brother's wife, she was super motivated. She went and knocked on all her neighbors' doors. Hey, my husband does roofs. We'll put a sign in your yard so you don't get a bunch of door knockers, and we'll set up some appointments where we can come over and inspect your. And she did a great job. And I remember getting texts from people, and they were saying, man, there's Havoc signs everywhere. Who's this Havoc roofing company? Because my logo is pretty unique. You want to talk about motivating. We finally made it up to the tournament, and my phone was nonstop. I missed probably 3 games, even though I was in the stands. Didn't see it. Just, it blew up. All my years as being a general contractor, and some of the videos I was posting on social media just blew up. I had probably 50 roofs in the first 2 days. And I started seeing an opportunity like,
So from that one storm, could you sum up approximately what was the revenue from that?
Well, just for me by myself, with my brother running some of the projects, we did just under 3 million.
One storm.
Went
Nice.
from probably 200,000 in 2021 and 22, just doing maybe 5-10 roofs a year, maybe, to 3 million.
Wow.
Which,
So what did you learn from that experience? Was there something looking back on that you wish you would have known, would have done differently?
I mean, if wishes were fishes, yeah, I wish I had a team of salesmen and I could have done 10 million.
Yeah.
But clearly, you got to earn your stripes. I had to learn processes better. I knew what worked for just me. Like literally my CRM was on my iPhone in the notes page, and I would just put their name and phone number, and then I'd go find a symbol. If it was roof, I'd put a house. If it was windows, I'd put a symbol of a window. And then I just every day when I was driving, which was my only office at the time, was my truck because I got rid of that other office. I would go down the list and I'd call people and start memorizing where they're at. And I could walk through 50 to 100 jobs. Just tell me their name. I'll tell you where they're at and what needs to be done.
Mm.
As cool as that is, you can't replicate that
No.
quickly.
Yeah.
Right.
If someone wanted to work with me for 5 years and not make a lot of money on the way, maybe, but no one wants to do that. And I understand that. So, I wish I would have had somewhat more of a replicatable process and CRM in place at that time, but I didn't.
So should someone who's just barely getting started, should they find themselves a CRM right off the bat, or should they just get in and, start making money first and then figure that out later, figure out what works for them later? Are they better off having a system in place, developing a system before this ever happens, or is that just too much to handle when you're first getting started?
I don't think. Okay, if it's a solo roofer, I think you can do it without a CRM by yourself at first. But write everything down. Write down the steps, write down the processes so that you can break that up into sections and then go shop a CRM, see which CRM can help you manage all of those individual processes.
The ones that work for you.
Well, the ones that are required to get through a job.
Okay.
Because they're the same for every job,
Okay.
but how you get them done might be a little different. How you document them might be a little different. Find a CRM that can help you track that. More than anything, though, you have to have either really good financial knowledge of your own business or someone that can help you track every dollar.
Right.
That makes sense.
Because what I found myself doing was taking an average profit per job and then going and looking at the total number of jobs I have. So if average profit was 10,000 and I have 50 roofs, okay, that's how much revenue I'm going to have or how much profit I'm going to have. I can spend money.
Right.
No idea what my overhead costs were. No idea what my legitimate job costs were. Material costs, labor costs, all that. I only had an idea.
And if you're trying to scale, those costs are going to vary as well. Those overhead costs. Yeah.
And they're going to catch up to you. When you're trying to scale, your overhead might be this by yourself. It jumps to this in the blink of an eye when you're trying to scale.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's one of the biggest concerns I've seen, especially right now. People are planning for this El Nino coming. I've been seeing on social media guys hiring. I got to bring on more sales staff. I got to bring on more guys. The first thing you said that you would have done different if wishes were fishes was have a bunch of guys that could go out doing more selling, right? If you could duplicate your brother and his wife in all these neighborhoods, man, imagine what you could have done. But I
Oh,
imagine there's a big
what is it?
gamble there. Obviously, we're prepping for El Nino, and I hire all the sales force, and I get them out there, and all of a sudden El Nino doesn't hit like it's supposed to hit.
Right.
And what do I do? So how do you manage for that as a roofer? Hiring versus not hiring.
No, I can only
If
speak.
you knew that green storm was coming.
Yeah. What I've been trying to do along the way is slowly not hire, but prep guys that are hungry. Okay. My opinion in Colorado, to work for a roofing company, especially at first, if you're just getting into the industry, it has to be a side gig.
Yeah.
Now, sure, you can make enough money to live for the whole year in one summer, but one, can you be disciplined enough to not change the way you live? Okay. A lot of sales guys, they come in, they start seeing this money come in, and what do? They spend it.
They'll spend it, sure.
They quit their job because this is going to be amazing and it's never going to end and it's going to hail every summer and blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't. Then the hail slows down. They spent all their money and they're out of a job real fast.
Right.
So in the industry, everyone's trying to find something that is, you can replicate and is more steady revenue because that's what private equity wants to buy. In a really storm heavy environment like Colorado,
Mhm.
I can tell you what the profit margins would be and potential revenue if there's a good sized storm. If there's not, nope. I mean, what else can you do besides roofs? Because most homeowners, they know a storm's coming. They're not going to pay cash for a roof. Why would I do that? Insurance is going to pay for it. So,
Right.
No, that makes sense. But in the
So
storm
should be
industry, these storm dependent guys, um, during those big storms, it really looks like to the outside observer that these guys are printing money. But like you said, you went from a couple 100,000 to multiple million in one storm.
mhm.
Um, so what's actually happening? What's actually happening behind the scenes? Because you said it's not like these guys are really scaling. We're not hiring a big workforce. We're not hiring a bunch of salesmen. What are they doing with all this money? Are you
Um,
spending it? Are you buying the cars and the houses and the what?
oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I I have a handful of vehicles that I've collected over the years. The guys that I bring those vehicles to get work done love it when there's hail because they know there's going to be a lot of guys coming in to get a lift on their brand new truck.
So it's
That's
not
just
just
how it
the
is.
insurance guys who are like,
So how
you
often,
know,
how often, Randy, have you seen these contractors, these roofers make a ton of money in a season and then later be struggling?
90% in Colorado.
Really?
Now,
wow.
struggle is relative. To go from, 4.8 million, which I did in 2024, to what I'm doing right now is a struggle, but not like I'm going broke or going bankrupt either. But it's hard to see that much revenue versus what I'm doing now, right? Other guys go from having money to bankrupt. So we're all shifting in the same boat, but some people don't plan on how bad it's going to be and go completely broke. So yeah, I'd say 50% have that bad of a struggle. The other ones are laying people off that they really liked, having to downsize their business. And that's a struggle because you don't want to let these people go because they know what they're doing. And we maybe could get a storm this year. And are they going to move on and not want to come back? Who's going to pick them up? Is my competitor going to get them? And so the struggle for an owner is, who do I hold on to? How long can I hold on to them? And is it worth the gamble? Because it might not hail. And now you're paying them, but there's no money coming in.
Yeah,
So
You know what this makes me think of? Is the lottery mentality. It's like when big storm comes in, it's like winning the lottery, right?
Mhm.
I mean, you know what the average lifespan of lottery winnings is 18 months. And so that, as you've been describing this, so you make the money and you go out and spend it, right? And so that's anyway. It reminds me a
Makes-
lot of that. And so you have to make decisions that say, to know that, especially if you are heavily weather dependent, which most guys in Colorado are. Our clients that we talk to, a lot of them are that way. They'll get into some of the other stuff, but if you're doing exteriors, yeah, in Colorado, you're probably gonna get hit by hail within the next 3-4 years.
Mhm.
And it's likely that you're gonna be able to replace it then with insurance money, right? And so, um, but for those guys who are heavily weather dependent, with most of the guys in Colorado, not just in Colorado, but there are people who live in the tornado belt, all that. Um, you really are gambling a little bit with the situation, because you do have, it's true. And I think we have to do a podcast also about, how to hire really good people. But yeah, you don't want to lose those guys. Those are the really good ones, right? They're making you a ton of money. You've spent all this time training them. And now they've gotten good at it. They've had a lot of at bats and they've gotten really good at it. And now you're going to you don't want to let them go. So what do you do with them in the meantime?
It all comes down to, and I'm going to drop a big term here, fiscal discipline, right? If you can, and this happens in our industry too, Scott, doesn't it? In the financial industry, there are ebbs and flows.
Absolutely.
There are
Absolutely.
seasons of plenty and seasons of famine, right? And that happens all the time. And you got to have that fiscal discipline to be doing the right thing all the time throughout the year. And sometimes you have to spread that profit over the year, even though it all came in a couple of months. But I think about this all the time when my wife goes to the grocery store. I've asked her about this. She loves going to the grocery store and loves shopping for food, but loves to do it when she's hungry because she has more fun. She sees these foods that are, really good, and she wants to get these foods. And I always, I ask her, well, why don't you go when you're not hungry? So you stick to the list. You keep that discipline. I'm going to get these things for the house. Well, it's more fun when I'm hungry. And then isn't that the case, right? When you're hungry and you get all this money, you go, I'm hungry for that lift. I'm hungry for that truck. I'm hungry for the addition to my house. And you just end up doing it. And then you think, well, it's always going to be plenty like this. And that's just, man, isn't that human nature?
Totally.
When we get to the months of plenty,
Well-
we think, it's always going to be this way.
And there's layers to that. In the roofing side, I've seen back when I first started, before I got around a really good group of guys, a lot of roofers were blowing their money on trucks or boats or whatever, right? Then you get around, a group of guys that are wanting to scale their business. Mistake number 2, they might not buy trucks, but they blow all of their money on hiring sales training and CRMs and a bigger office and. Another way they spend money that, well, if it doesn't hail for a few years, you're going to regret that.
Yeah.
So Randy, tell us about your experience with that. Because I know you have one. Are you willing to share?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Tell us what happened with you.
So 2023 hits. It's just me and my brother. It was awesome. He loved it because he ran it like a side hustle, which was great because he's also a contractor. He could have run them by himself. But to run the entire job is a lot more work. To go out and just be a project manager and deal with homeowners, there's a lot more enjoyment in that. You don't have to do the piddly stuff, which I was doing for him. So the side cash for him, he loved. I wanted to scale it. I started recruiting just people I knew. Had an opportunity to hire my best friend he's best friend like 22 years. What I was looking for was someone that was different than me. I don't need 2 Randys as good as that would have.
I don't think any of us need 2
surface.
Randys, man.
Oh,
2
man.
Randys is just too many.
Oh, talk about an awful place to work. But I needed someone that could do things that I wasn't good at. Right? It's a marriage.
Yeah.
Like I've heard, Ken, you've talked about you and Scott's relationship at work. Like it's a marriage.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
marriages work if you work on them. And so I was confident I could find someone that could help me with, my company. And anyway, it was good at first. I had a good team. We had a lot of stuff going on, but I there's a lot of just as there's a lot of bad players in the roofing space, there's a lot of mediocre/bad players in the financial space
Mhm.
in terms of
For sure.
CPAs, uh, CFOs, you name it.
Yeah.
They promise the world, and then tax season comes around, and you haven't heard from them in 3 months, and now you're filing an extension, and you're behind again. I know because that's what happens to me over and over every year, right? My CPA is going to be great. And here, sign here, and here's you pay this now, and we'll get started. And then you don't hear from them. So, anyway, while hiring and handing off responsibilities, I was interviewing multiple CFOs to help me really dial in the finances because I was still in the guessing stage of general numbers. If I'm at this percent profit per job, I should have this much money left over that I can spend. Wasn't very accurate.
Right.
Finally found a CFO that helped me really dial in the numbers and do really good cash flow planning because cash flow kills roofing companies.
What
Oh, for sure.
Tell me about that.
it- It's not a
Lack of
retail
cash
job.
flow? Okay.
Well, retail, no insurance involved. Hey, Mr. Jones, your roof is going to be $35,000. Sign here. I'm going to collect half when the materials deliver, half after final inspection.
Mhm.
The roof takes 2 days. So if it's a $35,000 roof, I get $35,000 within a 3 to 4 day span. Can pay everyone. I know exactly what's left over. Enter insurance. Roof hits on Monday, adjuster comes out on Friday. We sign a contract the following week after the adjuster comes out. Then they've got to wait for their ACV deposit. We're pushing 2 weeks now. I order materials to get everything done because I don't want to get backlogged. I've spent $8,000 in materials on a roof. 2.5 weeks in, I finally get the first check. But along the way, I've spent money on supplementing because insurance does not want to pay full dollar. Their business.
Mhm.
They want it for cheap. They convince the homeowner that the homeowner needs to get 3 bids, hoping the homeowner is going to pick the cheapest bid,
Right.
which means they most likely picked the crappiest roofer.
Right.
The law states insurance companies cannot tell you which contractor you can use.
Right.
Homeowner gets to pick who they want to work with. And not everybody has the same pricing. Okay. Another quick lesson. Back in the day, insurance companies came out with a thing called Xactimate. It's a software that kind of makes pricing fair across the country because you can't charge Mississippi prices in California.
Mhm.
Right.
So you put in the zip code for California, that's going to give you your pricing that you need to stay within. Okay. Colorado, between Hello, Mr. Jones and the adjuster coming, or right after the adjuster comes, and I get the insurance company's initial estimate, I would say 90% of the time it's low. It's crap. Not even close to what it's going to cost.
Sure.
Insurance is going to drag their feet. I pay a team to go through all the numbers, look at all the pictures, and get the pricing where it needs to be. That costs me money no matter what, whether I get the job or not, which I usually don't start that process unless I know I have the job. So in the end, I would say average job. And I haven't even gone through all the details. That's just a basic overview of what it takes. It might be 6 weeks before I ever collect on a job.
Yeah.
But I have to find a way to pay for materials, subcontractors, sales guys, in-house overhead costs, everything.
Right.
you can easily find yourself $500,000 behind in the first 6 weeks of a storm.
So where
And
do you
now
get
there's a
that?
little bit of gamble, hoping insurance is actually going to pay. I have a lawsuit right now open against a client. We took their claim from 34,000 to like 68,000. We doubled it because big house, solar panels, everything.
Hmm.
That homeowner kept all the supplement money and said they're not going to pay me.
Oh man.
So, but I've already paid everybody.
Yeah.
And that's been almost going on 2 years now. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to push till I get paid because I did the work. I did the work right. Insurance agreed to pay me that money. Okay. Multiply everything I said there with maybe 10 different scenarios that could happen per job times 100 to 200 jobs. Now you have how many different scenarios that have to be managed, get done correctly, and try and collect payment. All along the way, if you're not tracking cash flow and trying to scale, you're going to spend too much money.
Yeah, I can see that being a huge problem, tracking that cash flow. Having that discipline, right? You keep it in an account. I mean, what we've done in the past and what I recommend our clients do is, especially in industries that have big paydays and big ebbs and flows, is stick that in an account. Keep that discipline. And I tell my wife this all the time. She sees a steady paycheck every month. On my side of things, no, there's going to be big dumps of cash.
Massive swings.
Massive swings. But she sees a
Yeah.
steady paycheck. So, what we recommend to our clients is, keep that cash flow, keep that money in your own account, earning interest, and then keep that discipline. I have these things I'm paying every month. This is how I'm doing it. Part of that should be my own investments, my personal stuff, paying myself first, paying my family, paying my employees. But I
Right.
can imagine there's a lot of temptation. And then when you get that big payday to want to invest all that into your company, or
Mhm.
less responsible, buy the house or buy the car or buy the boat when that wasn't part of your budget. But even investing in the company, if you exhaust that cash flow and then you're not getting that payday that you expect in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. You invested a bunch of money into a thing that might not exist.
Yeah, or that you might never need.
Oh,
You know?
for sure.
Is there
Now-
let me ask you a question, Randy. On the you've got all these upfront expenses when you're doing a job. Okay? Like especially an insurance job like you were talking about. So where do you go get those funds? To pay the upfront costs, to pay your people who have done the work and you haven't gotten paid yet, to keep that good relationship with your subcontractors, so that they come back and work for you again. What do you do? Where do you get those funds? What's the best way to get those funds?
My company, we don't start a job. I'm not doing anything for you unless I have a deposit.
Okay.
Now, throw that out into roofing world ether and watch how many guys are like, oh, you shouldn't be collecting a deposit. And no way. In my company, we just do that. And it's like, whatever, dude. And then the same guys will go on there and say, you got to pay yourself last. You're the owner. You got to make sure everybody else gets paid. And I'm like, whatever, dude. At the same time, I understand where they're coming from because we'll talk about this, I'm sure, in a later podcast. There's a lot of bad players, right?
Right.
There's also, they're always selling because with social media, they know people are watching. So as the owner, you have to sell suppliers, sales guys, subcontractors, and in-house employees that you're the best company to work for.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
The best way to do that is to lie to them and tell them, oh, I pay myself last. I'm going to make sure you and your family are always taken care of. And I'm going to suffer through this on my own. Guys do it all the time. And they're so full of crap.
Here's a big problem with that. When I hear that, here's what I hear. Maybe that's because I'm in the financial industry. But when I hear guys say, I pay myself last, I'm hearing I have no idea where my money goes.
And I'm hoping there's something
and I'm
left over.
hoping there's some left over at the end to pay me. And what I hear with that is, oh no, they may not pay their employees the following month because they don't know where their money goes.
Yeah.
When I hear somebody who, and this is an irrefutable truth, the people who say pay yourself last, wrong. You pay yourself first, because the only way you can pay yourself first is if you have a plan in place. If I've budgeted this out, I have good responsibility with my cash flow, I can pay myself first now because I know it's all going to be there to pay the rest because it's there. It's in the plan.
Because you've done the math.
That I trust those guys.
Yeah, and you've done the math. You've put in the time to figure out what you can pay yourself. Now, that you ask, like, okay, someone just starting out. To anyone starting out, you're not going to know those numbers right off the bat.
Of course.
Because you haven't done it yet. And you can't go ask some roofing company with 10 employees what their numbers are. Because they're not going to be the same as yours. Right? So having a plan in place, knowing it's going to have to change as you start doing more jobs, that's the name of the game. You're going to make mistakes. Mistakes is where we learn. One of the things, Ken, you and I learned at that leadership conference, you can't separate your mistakes from your successes.
Miriam.
Mistakes are so important as long as you learn from them and use them, right? It's the guys that try and cheat and hide their mistakes and lie about their mistakes that end up in trouble.
I love something you said to me this morning, Randy. We were talking about joining Revolt.
Yeah.
Right? You and I. And I asked you, are you going to be doing that soon? And you said, well, hold on. There's somebody I got to talk to first. Who was that?
Yeah, my CFO.
You have a controller in there, a guy that's doing this, creating the plan, knows where the cash flow is, that you can go to and say, hey, can I have some lunch money? Right? Can I use some of this and go do this thing?
Well, I just want to make it clear that in our business at Alignment Financial, that's not something that we do. We're not we're not CFOs. We are, we can help. We help with the investment side and with this, with some of the personal investment, some of the business investment, the long-term financial strategy. That's some of the things that we do. But we do have contacts, and people that we work with who are fractional CFOs that we maintain relationships with so that we can help our clients by making those connections. But sometimes there is some confusion on that. Yeah.
So I will say this though, Scott, is if I talk to a roofer, and I have, that they don't have a fractional CFO and they don't know how to do it themselves. So either you have the discipline yourself, you know how to track these things, or you'll go get somebody that can help you with it. If neither of those two things are in place, I'd rather not talk to you because this is not going to go well. Because you're not going to know how to invest.
Not talk to you yet. Right.
Not now.
Hey,
not now.
Can't wait to work with you, but you've got work to do first.
Let's put these things in place first, and then we can talk. Exactly.
Well, and we can make, and I think that most business owners, whether in the roofing industry or out of the roofing industry, don't know how to do this kind of thing. Especially most entrepreneurs, okay, because small business owners, because most of us didn't go to school for finance. Randy, you're kind of the exception, actually, Mr. Roofer, who has a finance degree. But it's most small business owners don't really know how to do that, so they have to kind of learn on the job, and figure things out as they go. But or you go out and you find somebody who can help you. So at first, maybe things are simple enough that you can do it on your own. But don't be afraid to hire somebody who knows what they're doing, especially on a fractional basis, which means like part-time, right? Fractional CFO is somebody who comes in and does some CFO work for you on a contract basis. They're not a permanent employee that you hire. Those are the types of people who can be really, really helpful, and especially as your business grows up, and gets more mature, that's just, you really need to have somebody who can help you out with that.
And I'll tell you right off the bat too, it's not as daunting as you might think. A lot of these guys are thinking, well, I have no finance degree. I don't know anything about this stuff. I don't have the cash flow nor the wherewithal to go hire a fractional CFO. Start small. Put an Excel spreadsheet together that has your expenses listed on it. Everything you spend, right? Start there. Start with a simple budget just to know where your money's going every month. And you can start to look months out and go, okay, these are going to be my expenses over the year. And all of a sudden you start to get a picture of, if I'm going to be spending this much 3 months from now, I better not spend this money that I have now
Yeah.
on these other things that I don't need because I have these things coming down the pike, right?
Yeah.
So,
Start just by tracking. Just start by writing down what you're spending, and keeping track of it. And then you'll be surprised the insights that can come from that.
And you know what is available now that wasn't available in 2019 or 2015 when I started? And even though, I went through accounting courses, I have a certificate in accounting, finance classes, all that stuff. I hate spreadsheets. Absolutely despise them. I don't like looking at them, nothing. I don't mind looking if there's one number at the end that can tell me what I get to play with.
Mhm.
Love it. I don't want to look at the spreadsheet. But what we have today, that any roofer that's starting out, or if you've been in business for a while and don't have these things, and maybe you're too embarrassed to go hire a CFO because you're going to be embarrassed telling them, yeah, I have no idea what my money is. Anyway, AI.
Oh yeah.
You could,
Yeah.
there's a lot of AI platforms out there. You could go in there, tell it your story, type in some numbers as it prompts you. It will build a spreadsheet for you as a starting spot.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Then go find, the nice thing about fractional CFOs, or how they should be, they charge you based on the size of your company. If you're doing less than $1 million a year and they can get everything done for you in 15 minutes a week, they're not going to charge you that much.
Mhm.
Like my guy, as we scale and get busier, he sends me an email. Hey, dude, I've got $3 million worth of transactions I'm, managing right now. I'm going to charge you X more a month. And I look at it and I go, great. Because I don't have to worry about that now. Because the biggest stress, in my opinion, in all of business is the money.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Everything
That
comes back to
employee.
the money,
Yeah.
period. Otherwise, I don't know what you're doing. And no, if
Yeah,
you're
I mean,
building for free for fun, I hope it's on your own house and not a client's, like if it's not about the money, you shouldn't be in business. Like, and not to be callous, but in the end, that's what this is all about. Like, Ken, we were at that conference. One of the big themes everyone talks about in the roofing space right now is it's about impact, not income. And I thought, I did focus on impact to the point where I had no income and I had no impact on anybody.
right. Exactly.
I have to focus on the income so that I can have a greater impact.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My goal is to make enough money that all I can do, or all I get to do someday, is worry about impact, because I have enough money that I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
It's
Impact comes
interesting how
later,
quickly-
impact comes later when your company is strong, it's consistent, it's essentially living its own life. At that point, you have time and you have, income to create the impact that you want to create.
It's amazing how quickly we have these. When we first start out, we have these visions and these ideals, and this is the kind of impact I want to make on the world and all this kind of stuff. And these are my values. It's amazing how quickly people drop those when they're broke.
Yeah.
That's what we've seen. And we often get out of alignment with those values. We get out of alignment with our impact. We get out of alignment with our vision and mission as soon as the other shoe drops, right? And we start to panic and we start to do things we wouldn't normally do. We start to, and we're going to talk about this later, but we start to cut corners and we start to do things, being a little bit dishonest, or push sales, or do things that we look back on and go, that's not me. I wouldn't do that.
Right.
But it's amazing how quickly that happens. And so making sure that we are making the money that we need to make. We're responsible with that. We're making good money. It's amazing how much easier it becomes to have that impact, like you said, Randy, to live those values, to do what we want to do, and really live a fulfilled life and have a fulfilling business.
I think just like mistakes and success, you need to marry those. To have a greater success, you do need to have impact along the way. I think a big problem in society now, people are more worried about impacting the world before they impact their own little circle,
Oh yeah.
their own
Yeah.
family, And then because it's real easy to go online and post a big success story and have a bunch of people applauding and your wife can't stand you.
Yeah.
Right?
Amen. Amen.
Dude, you're not winning.
Yeah.
It's all fluff and fake at that point. Like, win, you got to win with yourself. I sound like a guru right now, but you got to win with yourself to have the confidence to show your wife that everything you're doing and working for and spending money on is going to come back
Right.
to the family first.
No, this is such a big deal. I'm glad you brought this up, Randy, because this is a big deal for me. This is like one of my personal mantras. Don't go out and change the world. Go out and change your world. Your own life and the life of the people that are right around you. Because my ability to affect somebody in Uganda is extremely limited. Okay, but if I can affect, if I can have a positive impact on the people, on my neighbors, on my church community, on my own kids, and my wife. That's where I can actually have an impact. And if we have an impact locally with our local world, then that feeds into, I think, positive. Not to get too ethereal, but I think it has an impact, a positive impact on the world in general. As more and more of us try to do that. So have an impact on the people around you that you can actually have an impact on. And one way to do that is is having the money and the income that will give you the freedom and the time to be able to have that impact. Significance is money plus time. Is where we're able to have a significant impact on people. So
Yeah.
There's a leader in our church who years ago said, I love this line. It's kind of in line with what you're saying, guys, but no success outside the home can compensate for a failure inside the home, right? So you got to start there. We can build from there. Change your world, it'll change the world.
Oh, yeah.
Give it enough time.
With everything I went through last year, that's why this is even happening right now. Right, Ken? Like,
yeah.
Really had to dig deep in my finances, talked with you guys, told you everything that was going on, and realized I had it backwards. I spent money I didn't really know I had. Now, you're not always going to get a great ROI and all that. I get that. But the thing I did not do was invest in my family financially, right? I was chasing the lottery ticket. I was chasing the pot of gold of private equity or whatever. I could have invested in us along the way and eased that burden on my wife and I, knowing, hey, it's okay. Those things didn't work, but guess what? You see the stock market? When we put money away because we had it, because we knew the numbers, because we had advisors, because I could have had a greater impact on other people last year, but I wasn't financially able because I was only focused on saving my business.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but marrying that mistake to successes along the way and the successes I'm going to have.
Yeah.
It changed my outlook on everything by going through that hell. So.
Absolutely. Talking to these guys, it's like you said before, Randy, there's not a lot of guys out there that get into the roofing industry so that they just love building roofs. They love putting shingles on a home.
Yeah.
Oh, man, does that get them out of bed in the morning? They get into it because they want to make the money that can provide a good life for them and their family. Right? That's the idea. And unfortunately, we spend all this time, especially those that are just putting it all back into the business, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We spend all this time stressed, living outside that alignment. My alignment is doing this for my family. but we spend all that time just doing it for the business itself, hoping that someday will pay off rather
Right.
than doing it along the way and feeling that fulfillment of, hey, yeah, man, my business is building something for my family right now as we speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
So-
So El Nino. Actually, this has been a really good episode because I think that we've, even though we haven't talked a ton about the weather, what we've talked about is what we can do, as during these, what we all hope is going to be a good year, for storms, and for business, for our roofing clients, and so what kind of an attitude do you bring to that? Do you prep ahead of time? How do you respond to the storms? What does that look like? And then how do you respond to this massive, to what can be a very good influx of cash? And what types of decisions should you be making as a business owner and as an individual and as a family person, and so this has been, I think, even though we haven't talked a ton about El Nino directly, I think this has been a really good conversation.
And that's the idea there, Scott, for sure. And I want to pass it on to you for a couple minutes, Scott, as one of our financial experts with this type of things. When you get a big influx of cash as a business owner, especially a roofer, because they have these big influxes from time to time with
Right.
the El Ninos of our lives, what would you do? What would you put in place, financially speaking, for yourself and for your business to make sure that you're capitalizing correctly on this potential big influx of cash?
Yeah. Well, for our roofing clients, I think the name of the game is flexibility. It's recognizing that, I think that in business in general, we talk a lot about reinvesting in your business, right? And building your business. Spend lots of time building your business so that eventually it's a mature business and it runs on its own and it makes money for you, and which is all great, and those are absolutely what we want to do. But when it comes to this, to the seasonal industries like roofing, you really have to your flexibility is your number one priority. You need to be providing for your family, like we talked about. Pay yourself first, and you're able to do that because you have a plan. So the flexibility comes from really good planning, really good tracking, making those responsible, financial decisions, fiscal responsibility, like we talked about. So not necessarily investing everything in your business. I mean, Randy, you've told us the story about how you took, we had this great year in 2023, and you invested in the business because that's what we hear we're supposed to do, but that's not always the best choice. The best choice really is to maintain that flexibility. So the way that you do that is you have a cash flow account that you create. So that you can continue to pay yourself. You have the flexibility that if not just if, but when things don't go well, that you have plenty of reserves on hand, and those, you have short-term reserves and you have long-term reserves. And so having a plan in place to be able to handle those moments is crucial when you're dealing with the ebb and flow of a seasonal business.
Yeah. Something I want to add to that a little bit too. I kind of think of this as a simple 3-step process for a business owner. I think one of the first things, and we hear this all the time at these roofing conventions, right? Know your numbers.
Right.
For number one, you got to know your numbers. And whether that is, for me, one of my favorite video games is Excel spreadsheets. So I enjoy them. Randy hates it. He never wants to see an Excel spreadsheet in his life. Interesting because you're an accountant with your education. But, or if you don't like that, use AI. I think that was an awesome suggestion by Randy. Use AI to just kind of have a conversation with it. Let it build it for you. Let it be that CFO type tool to help you start building this. But start understanding your numbers. Start simple. Start small. Number 2 would be create a habit. Create a habit. Once you start knowing your numbers and you have this budget that you know what you're spending and where the money's going, create that habit of investing. And you can start small. Open an account. Open an account and start putting a little bit of money in there every month. People that say, well, I'm going to invest someday. Once I get a lot of money, I'm going to start to invest. I'm going to start putting the money away from my family. How often does that actually happen?
What if
Practically.
you never make a lot of money?
Yeah.
You're never going to invest?
Well, and the other thing is that what we consider to be a lot of money changes drastically
It
over
does.
time.
It's the treadmill rule. I've mentioned this to you, Scott, before. The treadmill rule of those people who say they never work out. They're overweight and they say, "Oh, I'm just going to buy a treadmill so that I'll start working out." Right? When they
Buying a treadmill doesn't make you thin.
It doesn't. Not only that, you buy that treadmill and it makes you feel worse about yourself because you never use it. Right? And then people sell these treadmills that have been run on twice, right? Years later.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the idea. You got to start small. Put a plan, open up an account, and start putting $50 a month into it when times are lean, so that you have that habit built. So that when the cash flow comes in, you can start to invest more. And then number 3 is capitalize. And now that you have yourself prepared, you have the habit built, you have the plan in place, you know your numbers. When the big storm comes, you can capitalize on that cash flow. And there's ways of doing it that Scott and I help people with that does not cannibalize your business. You can continue to put cash flow into your business, build your business. But if you have the cash flow there and you have a net worth that's there, man, there are some solutions that you can utilize. Having a bank partner with you, for example, to start building your own retirement portfolio outside your business for your family, for yourself, while you maintain a lot of that cash flow within your business. So some pretty cool opportunities come when the money flows. But you gotta have that habit in place first. You gotta know your numbers. You gotta know what's going on there. And I see that as kind of being the simple 3-step process to prepare yourself for El Nino coming. Anything you'd add to that, Scott or Randy?
No, I think that's a
Everything you
really good
just
point.
said, keep it in that order. There's a lot of talking heads out there. And a lot of us in the roofing space have seen there's a lot of guys that get on a stage or a podcast or social media and they brag about these numbers. I could say any number I want right now. Who's going to call me out on it? I sold my business for 40 million 3 years ago. No, I didn't.
Way to go,
Right?
Randy.
I know, right? Hey, listen to me here.
We need
Give
to
me
talk,
money.
man. We need to talk, buddy.
Now, there's a lot of good advice out there too, but we've seen a lot of guys that they talk real big. They're no better than the rest of us, right? They're really not. They're just on the stage selling something. And this podcast is about helping roofers find programs to help them grow their personal wealth.
Yeah.
And it comes from going through the hard time. I mean, that's why I'm here. I lost a lot of money. So I'm not on here telling you, I mean, I was lying about the $40 million buyout, obviously. I'm on here telling you I lost a lot of money and I'm not going to do it again. From here on out, I'm going to invest in me and my wife, which will benefit my kids, which will benefit the people around me in that order. So
So just keep it simple. That would be my only advice. Keep it simple. Start simple. Put $50 a month into a savings account. And then and just that you're never going to touch. You never plan to touch. And you will, touch it someday. But just to get yourself started, get $1,000 in there. If you have a big, you have a big sale, take a percentage. Not a dollar amount, switch to a percentage, take a percentage and put it in there. It's just,
well, before you even do that, hire someone that knows how much you can put away without hurting yourself.
For real.
They're worth the money.
Yes,
for sure.
So a last thing I'll leave you with before we end then. Last little tidbit, unless you guys have anything else you want to add.
You're good.
Okay. So last thing, I want to make sure we switch our mindset a little bit here because the storm's coming. Storms do not create wealth. They create cash.
Yeah.
What you do with that cash next determines everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Understand the difference between cash flow, cash, and wealth. And what we're doing here with our roofing businesses is we're trying to create wealth. Like you said, Randy, we're trying to create wealth for ourselves, for our families, for the ones we love, right? That's what it's all about. Well, thanks for joining us today, guys. Appreciate it. It's been a great conversation. We've kind of gone down different roads here, but it's been fantastic to talk about this, and I'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See ya.